Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science is the oldest scientific research institute in India. It is the only institute in India which has produced the Nobel Prize. This institute, known as IACS, was founded by a medical doctor, Mahindra Lal Sarkar. Mahindra Lal was born in 1833 during the Indian Renaissance. Mahindra Lal obtained the MD degree of the Calcutta Medical College in 1863. He was the second Indian to get the MD degree. He had patients all over India, including Ram Krishna Dev. Around 1869, Mahindra Lal started writing about his dream project, establishment of an Indian Research Institute. He was supported by Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, who was the first donor and the first trustee of IACS. Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay wrote a big article supporting Mahindra Lal in Bongo Darshan in 1872. IACS was founded on the 29th of July 1876 at 210 Bow Bazaar Street. Father Lafont of St. Xavier's College helped Mahindra Lal to organize IACS. J.C. Bose shifted to Presidency College and Ashutosh Mukherjee left mathematics, and research did not take off at IACS. In 1904, Sarkar died a broken man. In his last address written from his deathbed, he wrote, "If our country is to advance and take rank with the civilized nations, it can only be by means of science. To this end, I have given the best portion of my life. But I am sorry to leave this world with the impression that my labor has not met with the success it deserves." C.V. Raman was born in Tamil Nadu on 7th of November 1888. Raman also stood first in Indian Financial Service Examination. In 1907, 3 years after Mahindra Lal's death, C.V. Raman came to Calcutta. Initially, Raman worked on acoustics, particularly Indian musical instruments. He started working on Raman effect from 1923. He did not have any equipment. He approached G.D. Birla for money to buy a spectrograph. Raman sent his paper by telegram to Nature on 16th of February 1928. He was awarded the 1930 Nobel Prize in Physics.
Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science, popularly known as IACS, is a leading center for research and education in science, situated in Kolkata, India. For over 138 years, IACS has contributed to Indian and international science and engineering by promoting an integrated view of science education and research. Innovation in the economy requires perceived opportunities in marketplace, but it rests on the underpinning of advances in basic research. Curiosity-driven research, motivated by quest for knowledge and without a clear practical objective, is the source from which all applied, commercially oriented research and development ultimately flows.
Now, the scientists at IACS will provide general overviews of different research programs undertaken at IACS. We'll start with theoretical physics.
Behind me on this board you can see the various thrust areas in which this group works on. And of course, currently the most interesting experiment that's going on is in Geneva in CERN called the Large Hadron Collider.
So the Large Hadron Collider is a proton-proton collider. So where you smash the two proton beams and it creates enormous amount of energy, and from there creates new particles and also known particles. The only missing ingredient of the standard model was a Higgs particle, and it was discovered in 2012 at CERN with the mass 125 GeV. Now, to keep the Higgs at 125 GeV, you need to have some extra theories or extra models beyond what is the standard model. Supersymmetry and extra dimension are such scenarios where you can have light Higgs bosons. In addition to this problem, we also know from neutrino oscillation experiment that neutrinos are massive. And from cosmology, we know there is a large chunk of matter which is dark. So supersymmetry, large extra dimension, and also like type 2 seesaw model and triplet Higgs models, they predict massive neutrinos as well as some extensions of seesaw model also predict dark matter. So in this area, our group is actively working.
So in lattice gauge theory, what you primarily do is instead of the continuum space-time, you actually discretize space-time into a 4-dimensional lattice. And that in one go cures both the infrared and the ultraviolet divergences of the underlying quantum field theory. So in this area, we have been working on developing new algorithms for more efficient simulation techniques. And one of the highlights that we managed to do is to first compute the diffusion coefficient of the quark-gluon plasma. And we are now actively involving in developing new algorithms like the rational hybrid Monte Carlo, etc.
Of course, modern theories need modern computers.
So here we are in front of the Cray supercomputer, and on my left you can see two cabinets. The one on the further side is the compute cabinet, and the one which is closer to us is the disk cabinet, which consists of a parallel Laster file system. Most interesting aspect of this compute node is that these are hybrid compute nodes, some having 2 CPUs and some having 1 CPU and 1 GPU, each card giving you about 1 teraflop of computing power, and this comes at about 1/10 of the price and energy consumption. Nowadays, for high performance supercomputing, you need about 2 megawatts of power for each petaflop of computing power. Current technology cannot be used to extrapolate to the exaflop scale, and here at IACS we are actively developing algorithms and new programming paradigms for effectively exploiting the power of these graphical processing unit.
From physics to physical chemistry. So what is happening there?
So we are going to have a small informal discussion about the areas of research and the focus of physical chemistry.
It's a very important question, but if you look at this our department, in the department of the physical chemistry, although that we need to depend very much on this technology, but somehow we try to maintain both in terms of this theory and experiment what is happening at this global level. So if you look at this research in this department, particularly in the 80s and 90s, mostly this high resolution spectroscopy of the small molecules at low temperature, that was the focus. With the change of the time, now the people are trying to study more complex system. This complex system, not necessarily that the system has to be very big, but even the small molecules, when we go to these very higher energy levels, the systems becomes very complex. So in that sense, this non-adiabatic reaction dynamics of these small molecular clusters, the study of the clusters at the low temperature, and also what the dynamics that is happening at the cellular level, and also to see that the process that is happening exactly at this molecular level, that is what is called the single molecular spectroscopy and the single molecular dynamics. That is also has become a fashion of this day, and IACS is going at par with this global trend. But we take teaching very seriously. We have an integrated program in chemical science here. why the Department of Physical Chemistry and particularly the faculty take a very intense interest in it, because this is our responsibility, of course, just to nurture this young generation so that they can maintain the trend of the research not only at this institute but particularly this region of the country. So this is what I can say.
It often takes decades before the commercial implication of an important scientific discovery is fully realized. I'll give you an example from our own institute. Raman effect was invented at IACS in the 1920s. However, its Nobel Prize winning inventor Sir C.V. Raman did not have the remotest idea that scientific principles that he invented would someday be used to perform intraoperative brain cancer detection in humans. Thus, the commercial potential of a particular discovery is often unanticipated and extends to many unrelated industries and applications, as was the case with Raman spectroscopy.
These days, interdisciplinary research targeting important problems are in vogue even at IACS. Let's hear about soft matters.
We just want to know what do you mean by soft matter.
A soft matter is a special type of condensed matter which containing of various physical states that can be deformed either by applying stress or by thermal flux.
Why these materials should be of interest to anyone?
Materials covers a wide range of scientific disciplines including physics, chemistry, biology and obviously materials. People are because of what getting into.
What kind of activities going on in this very institute?
Development of supramolecular gels, which are external stimuli sensitive, and they are derived from a low molecular building block, which are mainly of peptides or amphiphiles.
Yeah.
And when they interact through non-covalent interactions, they form a supramolecular fibrillary network. And within that network, the solvents in which the self-assembly takes place gets entrapped and the flows get added. And because of these materials, it has a diverse application, as I said earlier, in drug delivery, tissue engineering, separations of the different contaminants from the wastewater, as well as in the organic electronics, is the development of polymer-based software, mainly the polymeric micelles, polymeric vesicles. And because of its nature, it can entrap a drug or cargo inside its container, and which can be specifically delivered to desired places. And the other trend is there are different carbon allotropes of nanoscale dimensions like carbon nanotube, graphene. These kind of materials are also becoming useful as a scaffold for developing soft material, which shows promising application as cellular transport.
What is the future challenges in this area?
But the greatest challenges lies at is developing strategies that can provide a precise control not over its supramolecular self-assembly, but also at the macroscopic dimension. So that's like achieving structural precisions of different channeling, spatial orientations of the molecules. These are some pressing issues which have been actively pursued in different research laboratories across the globe.
Material science research requires a thorough knowledge of physics and chemistry. Let's hear from our material physicist.
In IACS, we work on diverse topics ranging from biophysics to quantum materials like spin liquids and topological insulators. So I'd like to give you a brief overview what is being done at IACS. Particularly people working in biophysics and tackling problems like cell division, they work in a scale of macroscopic continuum, which is about 100 nanometers. And here one can basically look at a system as continuum macroscopic system, and they can use continuum models to understand that. And this is essentially the domain of classical physics. While the same biophysicists, when they want to look at the structure of proteins, or we have also physicists who are looking at nanomaterials, they would like to get an atomistic description, and where the length scale is typically between 10 to 100 nanometers. But I think the bulk of our activities are essentially concentrated in a really microscopic scales, right, where we have electrons and the interaction between the electrons, and that's where there's a world of quantum mechanics. And I would say that both theorists as well as experimentals essentially concentrate on this quantum phenomenon.
Right. There are a couple of our colleagues who are working on these fascinating things called Dirac materials, the examples being graphene and topological insulator. So even though these are lattice systems where the microscopic interactions are non-relativistic, but the excitations are actually described by relativistic Dirac equation, and that's what makes them very fascinating. For topological insulators, one increases the spin-orbit coupling. One can even induce some additional topological features. So the bulk is insulating, whereas the surface becomes gapless, and it's also a very interesting state of matter. But there is another very large class of systems which are actually extremely strongly interacting. And there, the strong interactions can actually stabilize new phases of matter.
Perhaps our most unusual feature is an emphasis on the interplay at the boundary among various cross disciplines of science. Our strength at boundary informs our research and training in areas such as biophysics, cell biology, genomics, agricultural sciences, environmental and energy research, molecular medicine, material science, quantum structures and string theory, etc.
How about living materials, biological sciences at IACS? Biological research at IACS is interdisciplinary, fostering strong collaborations between several research groups covering broad areas like disease models, diagnostics and drug development.
30 years ago, scientists were unable to offer a coherent answer to a question: what happens to cause a cell to become cancerous? They knew that cancer originated from cells that began to proliferate in uncontrolled manner within the body. They knew that chemicals, radiation and viruses could trigger this change, but exactly how it happened was a hidden mystery. Today, we know that cancer is a disease of molecules and genes, and we even know many of the molecules and genes involved in this disease. Dr. Prosenjit Sen and his group have shown that tissue factor, which is basically blood coagulation factor, which in the cancer cell it induces the signal through PAR pathway. And so not only that, this tissue factor when passed through the PAR signaling pathway secrete the microvesicle which induces the pro-cancerous behavior to the neighboring cells. Another protein, topoisomerase, which is involved in the DNA relaxation during replication. Dr. Benubrata Das and his group have shown that this topoisomerase is overexpressed in cancer cells. When they inhibited this topoisomerase activity, they found the cancer cells have been killed. Dr. Rupa Mukhopadhyay has shown that the drug binds to the DNA, and during that binding, lots of knot structure appears, and that knot structure prevents the DNA replication process, which basically inhibits the cancer progression.
Now we will move from cancer to Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease is a neurodegenerative disorder which causes senile dementia and has been associated with amyloid beta peptides. Heme binding to these A beta peptides are the possible causes of this disease. The research on diseases is complemented by research on drug development. The research group of Dr. Surojit Sinha has patented a small molecule iboga, which is a possible substitute for morphine, and this has been successfully tested on mice. The research group of Dr. Rajiv Goswami has synthesized a series of potential anti-cancer drugs like cytospolite, Mycalol, which are showing promising activity against breast cancer targets.
Altogether, these studies in IACS can provide the information to other researchers for developing new therapeutic strategies.
Modern materials from a chemist's point of view.
Advancement of civilization is linked with invention and development of variety of functional materials. Modern society needs many advanced materials for industrial application, healthcare products and environment safety. Development of different nanomaterials keep hopes for a possible solution to these demands. Researchers around the world are using nanomaterials for efficient light harvesting, smart drug delivery carriers, photocatalyst, advanced bioimaging probe, water purification, healthcare applications. Many international industries are investing for advanced products based on these nanomaterials. In IACS, we focus on various applications of nanomaterials. One of them is to develop nanomaterials for efficient solar energy conversion and photocatalysis. In another areas, we are making functional nanoparticle or nanobioconjugates as advanced optical probe for imaging based detection and monitoring of biochemical activities. In another areas, we are developing nanoparticle based composite materials for separation of toxic pollutants from water and sunlight based degradation of pollutants. We also make polymer based nanoparticles that can be used as smart drug delivery carriers.
Everyone talks about energy crisis today. So how is Team IACS handling it?
The epic problem of 21st century regarding the energy generate green, clean, sustainable energy at cheaper price.
Well, it's kind of obvious because if you consider the fact that when we are targeting industrialization, we have huge energy. At IACS, what's the energy landscape is like? What is that we are doing?
Yeah, we have taken really serious initiative at IACS. Actually, we had got a long-term history regarding this energy generation. And this unit was basically working on the silicon solar cells. The focus has been shifted to the other materials. We have got a nodal point of a big bilateral project at IACS along with US. This is called SERIAS project. Under this project, our scientists here have done enormous amount of work. We are also doing energy generation at the smaller scale, which is basically done by using some nanomaterials, particularly focusing on the core shell heterostructures, or metal semiconductor heterostructures, some sulfide or oxide materials, even some polymer composite, and we can readily generate efficiency of the order of 6 to 7%.
Basically, you are saying that the short-term goal of the team here at IACS is to generate cheaper sources of energy and some really long-term goals of very sophisticated ways of doing it better.
Yeah.
Hydrogen as a fuel is coming. The question is, you want to buy it or you want to sell it. It's as simple as that. And you will see there are groups which are working in generating methanol, liquid fuel. There are groups that are actually splitting water to generate oxygen and hydrogen. And it's clean because when you burn hydrogen and oxygen, you get water. Here's a video that I'd like to show you that people at IACS have developed. This is a catalyst. It's cheap. It's made of iron and it can generate hydrogen very efficiently, very fast from water. And that's what the entire world is going after. And IACS has dedicated teams which are trying to get the same result faster than.
Generation is not only important, transfer is also very important here. So our scientists have worked along this line, and you can see that these solar panels which have been made out using some zinc oxide materials. In addition to that, little bit unconventional, that garbage nylon can be used for generation of energy. So using this, our scientists here have generated voltages per strike, say 50 volts or more than that at it is. And they have shown that plenty of LEDs, for example, here we can see 36 LEDs can be lit.
So these are all made at IACS?
Yes.
Clean drinking water is another burning problem in India. Scientists at IACS are actively working on it.
Today we will be discussing about water purification and environmental problems. One of the major problems our society facing today is the availability of sufficient safe drinking water, and this is a global problem. There are different kind of contaminants which are making this problem. If you see this Ganges basin, and it is a full of arsenic. Similarly, if you see this fluoride world map is throughout the globe, how to remove arsenic. So this is the method that our scientists have developed. So here we are using one kind of zinc sulfide nano rod, and that is used to purify this arsenic containing water, making mineral type structure with the arsenic. In other approach, our institute is working to develop, like say, organic receptor which can capture this anionic pollutant inside the molecular capsule, and that carbonate capsule can extract chromate, fluoride or sulfate from water.
We have been working also to develop different methods for removal of organic pollutants from water. But the main problem with these methods is that it's disposal, because we can remove those things from water, but then if we just throw it again, then it will again be leached into the environment. And in biological system, different bacteria in soil, they carry out this type of transformation reaction. One such toxic compound called bisphenol, this bisphenol is biodegraded by soil bacteria. Inspired by this reaction, we have been working towards the development of methods where we can mimic this reaction, which will eventually lead to and translate this method to a more viable solution working with such kind of organic pollutants in wastewater.
Since its inception, in recognition of their extraordinary research accomplishments, IACS faculties have received numerous national and international awards and accolades, including the first and the only Nobel Prize in Physical Sciences from this country. Many distinguished scholars over the world are associated with IACS, starting from the day's inception. We are equally proud of our former and present students and associates, some of whom are now leaders at various universities, government laboratories, and private industries throughout the world. As various aspects of science and its application evolves with time, so does the IACS. It is our unified view of the sciences and of their importance for modern science and society that remains constant.
The research groups at IACS are working in tandem to solve compelling problems. In future, we hope to expand our workforce and resources to allow these areas of research to flourish and evolve into an even stronger scientific program.